do not forget that Israel will be releasing 1,950 Palestinian terrorists, including 250 hardcore militants who are doing life sentences for murdering Israelis.
Where are these peace talks headed? What can we really expect? Is there finally an end to this war in sight? Let's put those questions to our experts. Joining me on Global Pulse tonight is Dr. Meena Singh Roy. She is chairperson of the Greater West Asia Forum and former head of West Asia and Eurasia Center at the IDSA. She joins us live from New Delhi. Major Alexander Grinberg, research fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Also with us is Damien Brockert, founder of Geopolitical Strategy and former Australian diplomat. And completing the panel tonight is Berzin Wagmar. He is at the Center for Iranian Studies at the SOAS in London. Thanks very much to all my guests. Dr. Meena Singh Roy, if I could start with you, ma'am. What do you make of what we have heard and seen so far? Trump has come up with a 20-point peace proposal. Hamas has accepted in part, says some of the other provisions will need to be discussed further. Going by reports, Netanyahu is not impressed with Hamas's response. He seems to have told Trump, there's nothing to celebrate. Hamas has rejected the plan. And Trump gets angry with his friend Netanyahu and says, you are so negative, get on board. What do you think we can expect next, ma'am, as we expect the negotiators, as we wait for the negotiators to meet in Egypt today?
I think, there are different, aspects if we look at these 20-point peace plan. There have been many peace plans that have been talked about, when we talk about the Palestinian issue per se. But I think here we are talking about the 2 years of continuous war. We are talking about Hamas, which is seen by many as a terrorist organization. October 7, which changed the whole dynamics, in the region. And today, so from that point of view, the whole world was exhausted. We are witnessing the era of war, actually. We see Ukraine and Russia war here. We see the war in Hamas, and the hostages issue as such. So when we look at the positives, there are two various dimensions to it. So there is a hope that there would be a ceasefire, and the people who are suffering, the children who are suffering, the food, they might get it. But Hamas, is again, is a difficult, issue out there. Does this peace plan, is a suicidal for them? From the Israeli perspective, unless they are disarmed, and so are the responses which are coming, nobody wants Hamas to have the power other than Iran, I would say. They would very much want the Hamas to continue. But from the Israeli perspective, Hamas doesn't have any role in future administration. So there are pluses and there are minuses. So I think it's a half-baked cake, I would call it. There is a hope, but we will have to wait and see what are the real deliverables when we talk about the peace in that part of the world. So for me, it's a good step because, there is some respite, but it's not a foolproof program where, only the time will tell, how the Israeli side and, the Hamas would finally agree to all. But one good step has been that, everybody has supported the peace plan, including India and all the European countries, the Arab world, the Gulf countries. So that's the positive part of it. So we would see some developments. And let's see what happens in Egypt, where the real negotiations will start. Will Hamas give up arms and arms? Will they disarm completely? That would be suicidal for them. So we will have to see as to how that phase will start. And then, as you also just said that, 72 hours whatever is decided, and then the hostages have to come back home. So will Hamas completely agree to disarm itself, which from their point of view would be a very suicidal. But at the same
Yes.
time, what happens internally, for Mr. Netanyahu. So I
Yes.
think we need to wait at this point in time, and not celebrate it as something which the peace has been achieved. It's a
Oh yes,
first step
absolutely. We
towards.
still, it's the first step. We still have a long way to go. And there are many moving parts in all of this. I think the good news is that Hamas has been receptive to Trump's plan. So let me take this to Damien Bruckert. Damien, reports suggest that Trump was worried that Hamas would actually reject his plan altogether. But they haven't. They have, in fact, agreed to release all the hostages as a starting point, and Trump sees that as reason enough to get excited, if not celebrate, and say, we are close to a peace deal, let's move fast. And he's telling Netanyahu, stop being so negative. Now, here are the main sticking points. While both sides seem to agree by and large on the release of hostages, whether Hamas will agree to complete disarmament, which is one of the primary conditions laid down by Israel as well as Trump, and whether they will agree to having no role in Gaza's future governance. These are two main sticking points, correct me if I'm wrong, two issues that still remain up in the air. But do you believe that there is reason for all of us to feel encouraged, that there is a starting point? Damien, could you unmute yourself? Okay, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Great. No, you're absolutely correct to say that there are some really difficult sticking points, and to Mina's points before, some of them at first blush look almost suicidal to Hamas. But I think, it's also worth noting that Hamas has made some good noises, some positive signals about the deal. They seem to be open to negotiate. In fact, that seems to be going on right now. That's an advance. We also need to remember that Gaza is, almost completely destroyed. What's the alternative to Hamas to a negotiated settlement at the moment? It's the continuation of a war that has caused enormous devastation, one that is, really decimating their military capabilities, and over time has really had a really negative impact on, their political legitimacy in Gaza itself. Not all Gazans are supportive of Hamas, of course, and so we also need to take that into account. But overall, I think this is, if we step back, the most positive sign for peace since the war began. There is broad international support for the broad contours of the deal. It's the first proposal among many over the last 6 months that is staged, that has something for everyone. And even if we are hearing noises about certain parties feeling as if the deal is not perfect, maybe that's a good thing, because maybe that means that there is a sort of zone of agreement that could be reached here.
Let's certainly hope that some sort of an agreement can be reached here. Hamas has said that further discussions are necessary on certain provisions of this 20-point peace proposal. Major Alexander Grinberg, let me come to you now. Nobody is celebrating yet. We're all looking at this very cautiously, keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that something works out. As has been pointed out by Damien Bruckert and Dr. Roy, at the very least, this is a start. Most people believe that this is probably the first real sign of hope that we've seen since the war began 2 years ago. Now, Hamas has responded positively, at least in part, and they've agreed to release all the hostages. Trump is certainly excited. Why is the Israeli Prime Minister being so negative? And no, that's not my question. That is Trump asking Bibi, why are you being so negative? Does Netanyahu not want to see an end to this war?
I abstain from any comments on President Trump's motives. I don't know. Second, it's not that Netanyahu wants or That's all. Third, I have never heard that Hamas accepted to release all the hostages. I have before me plenty of chains of Hamas. I think I've never seen anything of that. Hamas responded positively, but its answer was very vague, and no one knows to what exactly it agreed. And finally, you say people have hope. I don't know. It depends what people, who they are. And of course, Hamas will never agree to release all the hostages at once, because the remaining living hostages are their only life insurance. That will they're too smart to lose it. Of course, they will never agree to disband or to lay down their arms. It will happen, when the pigs fly, or the Pak army stops funding jihadi movements against India and stops ruling Pakistan. So no one seriously believes in that, because again, they said nothing concrete. They agreed to hold the talks using their preferred Iranian tactics, negotiations to the endless point, for it only to say in a week that in a week we'll have another negotiations. That's all.
Okay, Israelis continue to be skeptical about what Hamas has said. Let me take this to Bazin Wagmar. Bazin Wagmar, let's recap for our viewers what we are told Hamas has agreed to and the areas on which Hamas remains ambiguous. We are given to understand that Hamas has agreed actually to release, contrary to what Major Alexander Grinberg is saying, we are given to understand Hamas has agreed to release all the hostages dead and alive, and it has agreed to hand over the governance of Gaza to Palestinian technocrats. What Hamas has not committed to is disarmament, and that it will have no role to play in Gaza's governance in the future. Do you see those as sticking points? And despite those sticking points being in place, do you believe this is a good start and that the Israelis, led by their Prime Minister, perhaps need to now show greater flexibility and willingness to bring an end to this war?
Israel is showing more than enough flexibility. Do not forget that Israel will be releasing 1,950 Palestinian terrorists, including 250 hardcore militants who are doing life sentences for murdering Israelis. This is to say nothing about the 48 survivors, of which only 20 are suspected to be alive, and there are 20 cadavers, or 20 plus, which have been rotting for the last 2 years that Israel requires and obviously rightfully demands. And the living ones are being kept in Palestinian Islamic Jihad homes or in UN facilities or underground. Let us not forget these preliminaries as we talk about what is happening. Procrastination is Hamas's leitmotif, and impetuousness is Mr. Trump's signature tactic. This is a man who has no consideration for detail and is in a hurry to get on with it, and also to make his mark as a peace broker and the Nobel Peace Prize and all that sort of stuff which we've been hearing till kingdom come. The point is this: even for argument's sake, if Hamas releases all 48, and I'm skeptical too, how are they going to logistically manage, since most of the top brass has been annihilated? They do not have enough on ground to actually undertake a mass stage release, and they may yet again gull President Trump into asking for a further deadline. And they have got the mark of the man in that aspect. Don't forget that Hamas has been offered peace plans, and everyone has been rejected because they want to tinker with the details. And why has that happened, Neha? That too needs to be pointed out, because Hamas has been galvanized by hard left and other protests, liberal protests across the West, and they feel that they have triumphant in the court of public opinion and that Israel is isolated. They have been enthused by that, these awful progressive politicking that we see on the streets of London, Washington, and elsewhere. that has galvanized them that they are somehow perversely correct and they ought not yield an inch to Israel. That is why we've seen the hostages not released and the war continuing. So much for blaming Netanyahu for dragging the war to maintain his political standing with his hard right factions and all the musical chair sequence of Israeli politics, which is true. Let's not deny that. And elections need to be called by October 2026. But that's another kettle of fish. The point is, Hamas would not want to disarm itself, though there is intense pressure from Egypt and Qatar. And one point that I've been told is that Egypt and Qatar would be the depository for their weapons. They would have to leave because the international, what is called GITA, Gaza International Transitional Authority, would come in and would be ruling with a multinational force. And that's another can of worms, Neha, because now the GCC and Jassim al-Budaybi, who heads it currently, are saying that some details need to be thrashed out, which is true. I'm sure they do. But the details are, as far as I can tell, as a Middle East studies specialist, is that the Arabs are getting cold feet, the GCC members, because they don't have any experience of a peacekeeping force and handling this area as such. And they are themselves very wary of Hamas and other such Palestinian terrorist activities.